and I know many of you right now are so, here goes Whitlock caping up for white people. No, I cape up for and defend and fight against all discrimination, regardless of which direction it flows. I'm very consistent and very transparent about this. I don't like racial bigotry. I don't like racial idolatry. And I don't like the demonization of any group based on skin color. And I don't like the denial that the demonization of white men and white people, and particularly white evangelicals, is going on globally. And we can see it right here in this miniseries that Netflix has put on called Adolescence. As I've explained to you, 13-year-old boy that murders a classmate, stabs a female classmate. He comes from what they present as kind of an idyllic family. This is over in the UK, right outside of London, I believe. He comes from a married family, both parents, the parents still married, has a sister. They don't reflect any problems in the home, but somehow they've created this angry 13-year-old monster that has a problem with women. That's just the beginning of it in episode 1. In episode 2, they play a big card. They put that when I saw it, I was like, they attacked Andrew Tate by name. You're going to have to watch this documentary series. When they brought Andrew Tate into this by name, I was like, what? It just seemed to come from out of nowhere. You've got this murder of a young teenage girl by a 13-year-old boy, and the next thing you know, halfway through episode 2, they're basically saying, well, you know what the motive is? He was radicalized by Andrew Tate. He was radicalized by the manosphere. He was being taunted as an incel. He was being portrayed as just another kid at this school that's completely out of control. It seemed like some private school where the kids are wearing uniforms, the boys are wearing ties, and girls are wearing like Catholic skirts and all that. But all of these kids are out of control, and the finger is being pointed at, look what the internet has done to these kids. And look what the patriarchy has done to these kids. And look what evil people like Andrew Tate and their red pill sexist point of view. They get into the middle of episode 2, and the cop who is investigating this murder, his son goes to the school where the killer and the victim went. And his son pulls him into a room and starts talking Andrew Tate talking points. And it's like 80% of the women are attracted to 20% of the men. And this kid was being called an incel. And for the first time in my life, and people have been tossing the word incel around for, it seems like 2, 3, 4 years. I've never fully understood it. I knew it was something about kids or young or people, men who can't get laid, but I did not know the incel means involuntary celibacy. I had never heard that until this documentary series, and I was like, oh, that's what incel means and where it comes from. Involuntary celibacy. And as his son, the cop's son, unpacks it, and they're saying that the girl who was the victim of this murder had taunted the killer by calling him an incel. And I heard this, and I was like, so a 13-year-old is, I believe that's 7th grade, is being taunted as an incel and being ridiculed for not being sexually active. And I thought to myself, like, and I remember being 13. And there was an innocence at age 13. There wasn't, you weren't looked at like you haven't had sex yet and you're 13. No one thought this way when I was a kid. And yes, I'm old. But when I talk about robbing the innocence of young people, this is what I'm talking about. We forced a sexual conversation and sexual decision making on young people. And yes, the social media apps and the internet have driven a bit of this conversation. But this finger pointing at Andrew Tate, and I'm not saying Andrew Tate is a force for good, but when I'm sitting here like, well, hold on, we got a serious problem going on with young men globally, a very serious problem. And young men are less interested in dating. Young men are more withdrawn. Young men are frustrated and confused. Young men are different. But Andrew Tate, we got a 4-part series that basically says Andrew Tate is the driving force of this, and that the manosphere is the driving force of this, and that online influencers are the driving force of this. Are you kidding me? This isn't a serious discussion, and it's literally, when I saw this in episode 2, I hit pause and I called TJ Moe, and I was like, Netflix has a 4-part series that's blaming Andrew Tate for youth violence. And I was like, Andrew Tate is clearly more of a threat and more important than I ever imagined. I never thought, and I've understood people have said he's popular and people Google him and people talk about him. I've heard all that and understood it. But I never thought he had reached some level to where Netflix or Amazon Prime or any movie would be directed at saying, yeah, he's the problem with your kids. He's so important that we've had to make a movie that basically portrays him as the poison rotting your kids. This was not a serious movie. This was a movie with a clear-cut agenda. This was a movie that, a mini-series that had a point of view it wanted to get across. And this is a mini-series that wants to ignore the obvious real problems going on with young men, boys, and even older men. And this all connects to the demonization of white men. Because that in the early beginnings of this, in the foundational part of this, when they discover or reveal what they're saying the motive is for this killing, they point a direct finger by name at Andrew Tate. And I was like, is he really that important? That they would make a mini-series scapegoating him as the bad guy, scapegoating him as someone who radicalized a 13-year-old boy to kill. And then as you watched the boy, as the rest of the miniseries plays out, he has so little emotional control. He's so angry at women. He fires off on this female psychiatrist. And the inference is clear. Oh, if your son is listening to Andrew Tate, he's a pimp and a violent pig just like Andrew Tate. And I want to be clear. You've listened to me. Andrew Tate is an unrepentant pimp. He's on tape confessing to his crimes. But Andrew Tate, he ain't Charles Manson. He ain't Jim Jones. Yes, what he's promoted and what he's used to trick young boys and men into make himself rich, the pimps and hoes degree and all that other stuff, yes, it's a problem. But the real problem, and everybody knows it, and it's not remotely reflected in this miniseries. It goes out of its way to portray this family as normal. But there's not a single rational person on the planet who doesn't know the destruction of family is at the root of what's wrong with all of these young people.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.